was half expecting the government to do an announcement on it, but they've
Good
done nothing.
morning. We are live. Harry's busy finishing a different conversation. So
Yep.
just talked over you there, Harry. Sorry. So just to say a quick hello, and today we're going to do an update of COVID-19 and what's been going on. So there have been a couple of changes and some new updates to things that are going on. Get my mic down. So what's happening with the small business grant? A lot of business people are getting quite frustrated because they should be entitled to the 10k grant, but they haven't received their letter yet. So the letters are being issued by the local authority, and then they're being sent to the premises that are now empty because people obviously are working from home. So there's a lot of unnecessarily travelling going on at the moment, where business owners are going to the office to see if the letter has arrived and then finding out that it hasn't and then going back home again. So just a quick reminder, if you have rates or have a rates bill and your rateable value is under 15,000 and you're entitled to small business rates relief or rural rates relief, then you are entitled, or you should be eligible for this 10k grant. But unfortunately, a lot of these letters haven't come through yet, so people are starting to get frustrated. They're not sure if they are eligible, if they're not eligible. But you can't get hold of your local authority because there's no one there, because all the staff are now working from home. So what we have found is a lot of the local councils do have email addresses published on their website, and the ones that I have emailed have responded within sort of 24 to 48 hours. So it's worth perhaps emailing them if you're a bit unsure as to whether you should be eligible but you haven't received your letter yet. They'll probably just tell you that it's in the post, or they won't be able to give you individual advice. But if you're worried, then at least you could email them, and it might make yourself feel a little bit better, like you've done something about it. Other than that, it's just a case of hurry up and wait, unfortunately.
Mm. I know, rather ironic, they say no unnecessary travel, and they've
I know,
accidentally
I
caused
know.
unnecessary travel.
Well, they didn't really think about that. I did oversaw an email that was sent to somebody who works alongside one of our local authorities, and they're really surprised. The local authority was really surprised at the very low uptake rate of the loan, and I think that of this grant. And I think the problem is that people aren't getting the letters. The letters are being sent to empty premises, and sometimes people are getting the letters but still thinking that they're not eligible, so they're not applying. So if you've got the
Mm.
letter and you haven't applied, then please do. If you've got the letter and you're not sure, talk to your accountant, who should be able to advise you and ease any worries that you might have. But if you've got the letter, you should apply, because they allegedly have only sent these out to people who they have identified as eligible. And there are some questions and answers to tick when you go on the website to apply for it. So if you've got any doubts, put any notes in the application form, and then it will become clear if the grant is approved for you or not a little further down the line.
And hopefully you're all eligible.
Let's hope so.
So the next update is about the job retention scheme. Now, this update we have here is from the 4th of April, and it's from Nicola Ross Martin, which is basically a tax database. So essentially, with the job retention scheme and furloughing staff, you get the grant paid to the employer, and it's calculated on the employee's pay. Now, the interesting one here is when you have a look at the government guidelines, it explicitly says does not include bonuses and commissions, but there is actually a little bit of a saving grace on that, because actually the grant paid to the employer is calculated on the regular contractual pay, such as wages, compulsory commission, and any past overtime as well. So that's a really handy one.
And I
But the
think what they mean by compulsory commission is contractual commission.
Exactly, because it does not include discretionary commission, such as tips or payments of bonuses, any non-cash payments or any benefits of in kind. So it doesn't include those ones, but it does include contractual commission. So it's really important at this time, if you do have staff members who are paid commission, have a look at their contract, see if it's actually contracted in, and then you can include that element.
Yeah. So what about furloughing staff? We've spoken to a few clients this week, and some clients are being quite clever about the way they're furloughing. So staff can be furloughed multiple times during this period, but the minimum time for furloughing a member of staff is 3 weeks. So we have some clients who are bringing employees in and out of furlough, or plan to bring them in and out of furlough over the next couple of months. So they'll have 3 weeks on furlough where the staff member is at home, not doing anything, not actively working on a business, and then 1 week or 10 days, whatever it is, to make up that rest of the month off furlough, where the employee will be actively working in the business and help to drive it forward, carry out those essential tasks, perhaps running payroll and things that will move the business forward, or at least keep it ticking along during this period. And then they'll furlough them again at the beginning of the following month for another 3 weeks and bring them back on. So the timings are different for each of the clients that are doing this. Some clients are able to flex their workforce, so depending on the demand that the business has over the next couple of months, you might bring different employees in and out of furlough to help manage that demand and deliver your customer orders. Now, so long as each employee is furloughed for a minimum of 3 weeks at a time, you can bring your staff members in and out of furlough to meet those business requirements. So it's a really good idea to look at your capacity, look at your mixture of staff skills, and look at the jobs and the work that you need to keep delivering during this tough period to ensure that the business survives at the end, and then furlough your staff accordingly.
And the 3 weeks of furloughing don't all have to have been done in the same month, so you can have a slight crossover. So you can have, say, 2 weeks.
So long as they're furloughed for 3 continuous weeks at a time, then that's fine. So it can cross over pay periods, but so long as that is 3 consecutive weeks at any one time, then you can bring them in and out of furlough as it suits your business needs.
And on the topic of furloughing, we've also been asked what staff can actually do while on furloughing. Now, in simplistic terms, they must not work for the business during the furlough period, because essentially this is as if they've been made redundant. It's essentially an alternative to actually terminating the job. So they can't work if they've been terminated. And unusually here, because actually they're furloughed, they're protected, your employee can do volunteer work, just as long as it does not provide services to or generate any revenue for or on behalf of your organisation in which you are furloughing them from. So furloughed employees can also engage in training, just as long as the undertaking of the training to the employee does not provide services and also does not generate revenue for or on behalf of the organisation. So that's the really key part of both elements of that. Now, HMRC does state that furloughed employees should be actively encouraged to undertake training. Now, this is actually a golden opportunity because it's quite an unusual climate that actually staff members could be furloughed, they could still receive some of their pay, and they now have this free time available to do training, which is why HMRC is actively encouraging it. Because what better time to learn than when you have more time to learn? So it's massively important.
I think it's a really good use of the time. If you're going to send somebody home, and it keeps them busy, it keeps them active, but I think from an employer's perspective, what you really want to do is have an understanding of what skill sets you need in your business to drive your business forward when it comes out of this period of unrest and difficulty. So it's a golden opportunity. You're never going to have this opportunity again to action those development plans for your staff members, or get them to learn new skills that they perhaps never thought of previously, but ones that you as a business owner need in your business to help move you out of this tough period. So as the business owner, I think this is the time to start looking at, what's the longer term? How are you going to crawl out of this and get to a point? And I keep using this phrase, you want to run out of this crisis, not crawl out of this crisis. And I think that's really, really important, is to try and rethink what you need to learn, how you need to learn things. So in our organisation, for example, we haven't furloughed anybody, but critical to us is Facebook ads. So we're trying to learn more and more about Facebook ads so that we can do more Facebooking, we can reach more people that are outside of our normal audience. And if that would help you in your business move forward, find a key member of staff who can be furloughed, who could then also be learning this key skill to help bring your business back after this event. So, I mean, that's just one example of a skill set that people need in their businesses to help move forward. Try and think of what else you might need in your particular business to help you.
That's exactly the point. Utilize the skills that you're going to need. So obviously, it's all well and good them undertaking training, but you want it to have a business. Exactly. So make sure it's actually satisfying a need. Target the skills which you need, and then encourage training in those.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then once we're out of this, we can hit the ground running. Now, one interesting thing here is if you have employees who are earning below the national minimum wage and they are training, then they need to be paid for those hours at the national minimum wage. And the main reason we say that is because obviously national minimum wage in place, if they're furloughed, they receive 80% of those funds. So essentially the top up to bring them up to the national minimum wage for the hours in which they are actually undertaking training.
Yeah. Now, our last update is on CBILS, which is the Coronavirus Business Interruption Loan Scheme. Now, although it was only released a couple of weeks ago, it had a bit of a revamp overnight. I think it was on the 4th of April. So in addition to the previous offering, it now offers state-backed loans of up to 25 million for larger firms with a turnover between 45 million and 500 million. One of the biggest issues that UK Finance had raised was that more than 130,000 loan inquiries have been made since the scheme opened, but less than 1,000 have been approved by the banks, which is a really poor conversion rate. So in response, the government will underwrite 80% of these loans to nudge banks into speeding up the provision of these emergency funds. I mean, they said they were going to underwrite them anyway, but they've reiterated that. They have also banned banks from asking company owners to underwrite loans of up to 250,000 with their own assets. Now that is a big move forward. Previously, directors were being asked to provide a personal guarantee in really difficult times, which could potentially put their home at risk or their savings, and now that has been disallowed by the government, which is really, really good news. Now, what you will need if you're applying for a loan is a full set of accounts, so get your accountant to be working on your last year if that's not already filed. You'll need a business plan and a cash flow forecast, and you'll also need to explain what the funds are for. But don't forget that if your business is viable and you've got savings and you are able to trade through this quite well, you may still, I mean, the banks will look at your loan requirements at their standard criteria first. And if you meet that standard criteria, then you'll be offered a standard loan, albeit not at the ridiculous interest rates that they have been offering this last few weeks. The CBILS loans are only going to be offered to those people who fail the standard criteria for a normal lending bank. So if you fail that criteria, then you'll be looked at from a CBILS perspective. You won't automatically be able to apply for a CBILS loan if you are more likely to be eligible for a standard loan at standard rate, because actually your business has savings and your business does look viable and you're not in financial distress from this coronavirus. So don't be surprised if they look at this one first, but don't let that stop you from applying for a loan if you think you need one.
Yeah, because they were looking to extend the eligibility for a loan, because obviously before it was if you were rejected from any other form of lending, then you could get the CBILS. They were looking to extend that, which is part of the reason they had such a low uptake rate on it. So the reason they had only 1,000 out of 130,000 was because it was so restricting that banks were automatically deferring people, well, not deferring them, deflecting them onto other schemes and other loan.
But then I think what we've seen happen is a lot of people panicking because they think they're going to run out of money, and then they're applying for loans just in case, and basically to create working capital just in case and create a buffer just in case. Well, that wasn't really the purpose of the CBILS scheme. The CBILS scheme was to help people who are in genuine difficulty, who can't pay their bills, to help get out of crisis if they have a viable loan. So if you're just looking for a top-up of cash just in case you run out in 6 months' time, then the CBILS scheme is not going to be applicable to your circumstances. And again, I think that's why a lot of people are being rejected, because they quite simply don't fit those criteria. So your business
Fine,
has to have been.
because they want them
Yeah,
rather
the
than
whole
because they.
point of this scheme was to help businesses that are in financial distress, and running low on money, or running low on reserves and not utilising your reserves is not necessarily the right criteria for a CBILS loan. So that's it from us today. If you have any comments, please add them in the notes below, the comments below. And if you enjoyed our video, please let us know. And we will speak to you tomorrow. Cheerio.
Bye for now.